Why do parents use corporal punishment on their kids? I don't know. I'm doing corporate punishment with my kids. I put them in a cubicle for timeout. My parents used corporal punishment when I was a child. So was my husband. When we had children, we made a very conscious choice to discipline our children differently. They turned out to be great kids. So no, you don't have to spank to discipline. You just have to be creative with punishments. Talk to your kids when things go wrong. And apologize when you make a mistake. And tell them you love them every single day. Tried the death penalty once but didn't work. He completely stopped listening to me. In the olden days, people thought if you didn't use corporal punishment, then you were soft on your kids and they would refuse to listen to you or respect you. Obviously now with psychology we know this isn't the case. So among Westerners the use of corporal punishment had diminished exponentially. And at least in America in the span of 40 years it has went from commonly accepted to damn near taboo. Because they had it done to them and they turned out fine. Because, in my case, they weren't smart enough to reason and were very quick to anger. There is no need really. I feel corporal punishment is the first sign of lack of real parenting skills. In my country it is reason enough for kids to be taken away permanently by child services. My parents used corporal punishment on me and my two older brothers. Here's how we turned out. My oldest brother is hyper-religious and wouldn't hurt anyone. Soft-spoken. Timid. He took the brunt of caregiving for our parents. My middle brother is extremely aggressive. Can be violent towards animals. He rules his two sons with an iron fist. He's verbally abusive to my sister-in-law. He suffers from heart issues. Being born super premature, he was targeted a lot by our opioid-addicted mum. BC she could get a rise out of him anytime. Call it disobedient, and beat TF out of him. I'm the youngest. Accidental girl that wasn't wanted, planned. My mom made it her duty to beat me as much as possible. For every small thing. To the point our dogs would defend me. I grew up sick. Undiagnosed genetic diseases ate my body. I have PTSD, anxiety, and depression. My family and I are no contact. There's a fine line between discipline and abuse. Unfortunately, it's a lazy way to teach there are consequences for one's actions. Maybe I'm old, but when you have a toddler and a hot cup of coffee, and you've already told the toddler repeatedly not to touch 'cause it's hot and the toddler naturally doesn't understand hot because they've never experienced it, are you going to go with natural consequences and hope they don't spill it on themselves? Or are you going to give them a tap on their padded behind? Not hard enough to hurt, just enough to get their attention. There's a difference between physical discipline and abuse. And, yes, I know you could move the coffee, but how does that teach the toddler the lesson? Will kids come out bad if you don't for real? Lol no. That's what some people on Reddit say. But it's BS. I was swiped lightly about twice by my mom when I was growing up and I'm extremely boring and well-behaved. You don't need to hit kids to make them behave. And what about all the people who were hit by their parents and still grew up disrespectful? The logic of the beat respect into your kids brigade doesn't add up. The older generation would say this is why the younger generation has many of its problems. Corporal punishment used to be very common and accepted at home and in schools. It's way less common now, and many don't consider it acceptable. It's been decades since I've seen a parent hit or spank a kid or threaten to hit or spank a kid in public. I myself have kids and have never hit them. The thought of it is very weird and gross. It's like the thought of hitting my husband. I just wouldn't ever do it no matter how pissed I am. I don't think it's necessary to raise good kids. I believe some studies have actually been done on this. They found that adults who were hit as kids are more likely to be violent as adults. It's actually damaging, impacts brain development. All shame. I've never sparked my kids, and don't plan to. It's lazy parenting because it gets immediate results but is detrimental in the long run. Just like how some parents give their kids tablets to play on at a restaurant instead of making the kids behave and participate in the dinner. It's an immediate fix of the current situation but with no long-term benefit. Same with adult violence against a child to get them to stop what they're doing. Immediate fix, but no long-term benefit to their development. Like if an adult got arrested and then the judge sentenced them to be hit or physically harmed. People would be outraged. But an adult decides the punishment for a child is physical harm and it's fine. My parents sometimes beat me to a pulp to a point I couldn't even breathe because I was crying so much and was left gasping for air. One time, when I was 6, I accidentally tore a net. Something came over my mom and she kept beating me so hard for so long that according to her, her own hand started turning blue. I was in so much pain. I couldn't stop loudly crying even an hour or so later by my bedtime, and so her solution to that was to beat me up all over again for crying so much. Albeit not as severely as the first time. I still remember clearly that the pain had not gone even by morning, and just sitting down in school was uncomfortable. My dad was worse. One time I pulled a cord and accidentally cracked a light cover. He slapped me so hard. My cheek and ear became red and swelled up. My brother had to put ice on it and was genuinely concerned if a vein burst and whether we need to seek medical attention. I have a healthy relationship with them now, but the only thing the punishments did was make me go into a shell mentally from which I still haven't come out. Also made me sneaky and less open with them even now when I'm in my final year of college and have a relatively high-paying job lined up. It's definitely not okay to beat up kids, and there is no way I'm going to let it happen to any of my future children either. What is corporal punishment? Like, is it literally belting the living daylights out of them for doing something wrong? Like full force damage? When my 3 brothers and I were kids, we did get the wood spoon or the occasional flip-flop thrown at us. Thinking back, as a child I suppose it was scary and painful, but as an adult I joke with my parents about it all the time. It was never like a crippling full-force slashing. It was more like you're in deep doo-doo. My dad would also talk about how his mom would chase him around with a broom when he was growing up. In Asia. Who knows? Maybe I'm screwed up and I don't know it? I think our ancestors did it because when you needed to spend so much of the day just trying to survive, discipline had to be fast and get results. Nowadays, we have the time to realize that it has undesirable side effects. And we can afford to use more time-intensive remedies that don't involve hitting our kids. Of course, there are people who believe in tradition for the sake of tradition, even to the detriment of their children. There were few times my parents used corporal punishment. No more than 10 maybe. 9 of times I would say were my parents being completely overwhelmed with parenting. No one is perfect, and when you come from a culture where corporal punishment was accepted, it's easy to defer to it. But out of those 10 times I think one time it was completely justified and made my life better. One time I crossed the street without looking and a car almost hit me. It was inches away from killing me. Afterwards my dad, I guess in sheer panic, slapped me to kingdom come. Then proceeded to explain to me what I did wrong and why I should never do it again. Needless to say, I never crossed a street without looking since. Look, I'm not for corporal punishment or abusing children. But I think each parent gets one shot. and they should only use it in the interest of their children's safety. It's really hard for a 4-year-old child to comprehend why crossing the street without looking is bad. But if they know that crossing the street without looking is the only way their parents could get mad, they are a lot more likely to choose the safe option.
If you enjoyed this video, please check out our playlists full of similar content. Epic Ericast is like doom scrolling for your ears. Please like, share, and subscribe.